If I'm being completely honest, one of my biggest struggles is productivity. I've been meaning to get serious about it for a long time and thought I would share that journey and progress along the way. I'm going to be trying out a couple of different things that apply most directly to me, and the first one I want to try out is quitting social media. And who knows, maybe by the end of the video, I may have figured out productivity completely, and this will be the last video I ever make about this topic. Now, before we get into it, I want to give some background as to where I am currently productivity-wise. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm unproductive. I always get the things that I need to do finished. And if I look back in the past 2 years, I've actually accomplished a lot. But even still, most days I finish a day wishing I had spent my time better. Now, the biggest distraction to my productivity, I believe, is social media. The two main culprits here are YouTube and Twitter. Now, don't get me wrong, I really love these social apps, and when used correctly, I believe they're really powerful and very rewarding. But for people like me, it really quickly goes into something that is just distracting. The goal here isn't to stop using social media forever, but instead to be able to do more with the things that bring me deeper and more meaningful rewards, and instead of these short little bursts of dopamine that scrolling brings. Now, for most people, the biggest reason social media is distracting is because of notifications. However, this is not the reason behind my issues because I've disabled all social media notifications a long time ago. But if this is something you are struggling with as well, I recommend you try disabling the notifications first. The part where social media gets me is that it's a great time filler. When you don't know what you should be doing next, or when you have a 5-minute break between meetings or between tasks or between whatever you're doing, it becomes just really easy to take out your phone and just start scrolling until your brain is numb. And then you're ready to jump back into whatever you're doing, except now you're just a little bit more of a zombie than you were before. So this is my problem, and to try and solve it, I'll be attempting to quit social media for the next 10 days. And the term quit is purposely in quotes because I can't really fully quit. My job, my business, my aspirations are all tied to social media, and I can't completely quit them. But I can limit what parts I use and how I use it. So I set some rules for myself, and let me break down these rules for you. The first rule is that I will have 30 minutes every morning to go on Twitter and Instagram and all the other stuff and respond to messages and comments on there. And if there is time left over, I can engage with some of the other accounts too. The second rule is for posting content, I will use a scheduling tool called FeedHive that allows you to manage your posts for multiple different social medias, but I will probably only use it for Twitter since that's my main one. The third rule is responding to YouTube comments will be included in the 30 minutes in the morning, but since I don't use any other tools for posting content to YouTube, I will need to use those features on YouTube itself. But the rule is that I won't be consuming content unless it is for learning for the topic that I'm creating. I personally learn best from videos, so instead of using Google, I usually go to YouTube. But I think the problem for me becomes when I'm not doing it to learn anything, but just to pass time. So the rule here is only for something that I actually need to search and to understand. This is probably as close to quitting that I can get without really stunting my progress towards my goals. Just to give you a measure of what this change actually means to me. So this is what an average day looks like for me. 1 hour and 40 minutes for YouTube, an hour for Twitter, and an hour 20 for different types of messages, and about half an hour for other social medias. This has already improved a ton since a couple months ago, where Twitter used to be like 2 to 3 hours a day. But even now, this adds up to 4.5 hours of every single day. And now we're trying to go from 4.5 hours down to just 30 minutes. So today was the end of day one, and I got some mixed feelings about this experiment. There were definitely some really good things. First, I went to the gym today, and usually between sets, between the workouts, I always scroll on Twitter or some other sort of social media to check what's going on. And since I couldn't do this today, I was more mindful about my exercises, and I was actually more efficient at the gym too. I was in and out of there within like 40 minutes, where usually I'm there for like an hour or more. But then there was definitely some things that weren't so easy. For example, I have like a little rhythm during lunch. I always watch some YouTube while I eat lunch. Today, I just kind of sat there and just ate my food, which I'm sure has some positives. You're more mindful about what you eat, or just take that time to relax. But I don't know, I was really feeling a YouTube video, but I didn't let myself do it. And lastly, like I said, most of my career, most of my everything is based off of social media. So today I felt like I was really lacking on Twitter. And the way you make the most out of Twitter, the way you grow on Twitter for the most part, you just have to engage with other people and, be there. Not only was I not really there, I also am not really sure what my online friends are doing today. Now, I'll acknowledge the fact that those aren't real problems. At the end of the day, they might actually be good things to be more mindful and, be less attached to it. But that's just how I'm feeling after day one. So now it's day 3, and I'm starting to realize that this wasn't the root of the problem. While I have been sticking to my plan, I have just been replacing the times I would spend on social media with anything else that's unproductive. For example, Reddit's been the big one, or even just like news articles. I have a feeling this experiment isn't working too well for me, but just to stay true to the spirit, I will double down and now include Reddit in the apps that I'm quitting. So it's day 7, and I'm usually not a quitter like this. To be honest, it hasn't been working at all. I tried really hard after day 3 to turn it around, but even if I would limit myself on more things, I realized that really wasn't the core of the problem. I would just start doing other random stuff, even if it's just laying in bed and playing with the dog for way too long. But during this time, I also started reading this book called Atomic Habits, and I've been implementing some of the things that I think are a little bit close to the answer. But that's a video for another time, so leave a like if you want to see it. So I realized that stopping social media use was definitely not the core of my laziness or unproductivity. But this experience did teach me a lot that I think will lead me towards being better. So first, since I made that rule to not waste time or, pass time doing something unproductive, I noticed that I don't like the feeling of being bored, and I'm hoping that a lot of people can relate to that. Now, there's nothing wrong with boredom, and the next step that I want to learn is to learn to embrace that boredom and just be okay with being bored. That most of the time when I was wasting time, it was due to not knowing what I should be working on at that specific point. Now, I don't know if that's the root of the issue, but I think that will definitely be another step getting closer to fixing this thing. There are tons of productivity methods to address this issue, but I'll leave it to the next video. Now, from all the videos that I've watched about productivity throughout these years, I haven't seen many productivity gurus admit at the end of the video that it doesn't really work. But here I am admitting that for me specifically, and maybe for some of you, that social media isn't the main problem of the productivity. It's probably something deeper that's most likely internal. Now, for those of you watching that are extremely productive or more productive than the average person day in and day out, I would like to know your secrets, so definitely let me know in the comments. Wow, you actually watched until the end. You definitely deserve this meme.